Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Saturday HOA Brunch, presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. Please sit back, relax, and join Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick for an hour of entertaining information about HOAs and HOA law.
Well, good morning, Sacramento. It's on the clock. I see 9:05, and the forecast, unfortunately, today is not going to be balmy, right?
Well, let me look outside. It looks like it's going to be balmy to me. We'd like to welcome our listeners.
It's not going to be balmy. It's going to be wet. I think it's going to be a wet weekend in Sacramento.
Yep, that's what we said, balmy.
So, we're the Saturday HOA Brunch. We're back again, and of course, we have a special guest in studio, right? You're excited about that, and of course, Viana is here.
I'm back.
Yeah, she's nice. She's back from her, what'd you do last time, camping or wedding? What was it?
I was here last time.
She was here last week.
Jeez.
I must have been sleeping at the wheel. Anyways, we talk all about community association law and everything that affects the community associations. And let's introduce our guest, right, Counselor? Who do we got today?
Yes, we have Tina Keele with Rick Russo Insurance Agency. Tina, we are so happy you're here. We're just looking forward to talking about insurance. Our listeners love to hear about the insurance issues concerning community associations. It is so important. So welcome. How are you feeling today?
I feel wonderful. It is a bit balmy, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm thankful to be here with you guys. So thanks for having me.
Fantastic. And we're welcoming some new listeners. We have, of course, Sandra with Gold River, and we have Rhonda with Granite Bay, those board members. But we also have Rich and Stephanie from Santa Cruz, some board members from out there listening today.
Really? Listening on the iHeartRadio app while they dodge great whites and surf out there on the coast?
That's right. That's right. So they were very interested in learning about directors and officers insurance, right, Viana? We're going to be talking about directors and officers insurance today.
Yeah, Tina's going to tell us all about directors and officers insurance, and hopefully we can contribute a little bit about the law.
And Viana, how can listeners join in our conversation?
So they could always call us, 888-923-1380. Don't call 923-1380. Please call 888-923-1380. And they can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. It's the Saturday HOA Brunch on Facebook and Twitter.
Right, and I'd like to mention that a lot of our board members, too, listed on their cell phones. On their smartphones, what they'll do is they'll just go ahead and they go to 1380 KTKZ on the website and hit play. It's that difficult to do it. And then as they walk around, and today on this balmy day, they'll be able to enjoy themselves. And maybe when they're sitting down for brunch, they have their computer in front of them also. So we have some board members like Wally Rick out in the Bay Area, and he'll go ahead and eat breakfast, right, Jonathan?
Absolutely. And then what are we going to do? Your favorite portion of the show, right? Where it's the game show portion?
No, not today. Not Battle of the Board Members. Instead,
it is a battle
of the managers.
Yeah, Battle of the Community Managers. One from the Central Valley, and the other is from the Central Valley. Fresno, though, and Tracy. Those are the regions that they're going to be calling in from.
Fresno
so I'm excited.
and Tracy. Great.
Yep. So, well, it's insurance. Let's introduce Tell us a little bit about who you work for, Christina, what you do, and besides just show up and do radio on Saturday mornings.
I just show up and play soccer. I've been working for Rick for about 13 years now. I walked in his doors with no insurance experience, and I always say that you never grow up thinking that you're going to be an insurance agent, but here I am. I cut my teeth in his business, working on home and auto insurance, and about 5 years in, I decided to switch over to his commercial sector and been working on homeowners associations ever since.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, we do want to mention that we all are on Dion Stein's law office of Dion Stein, the great law firm, general counsel for community associations. We're on his team, and what's our team name, Jonathan?
Eagle Power.
Eagle Power. Power. And Tina keeps us organized. She'll send out a chart every week to make sure that we have all the right players playing, right?
Yeah, even though she shows up like bi-weekly, I think. Though.
I think at this point it's like every other month, but we'll see.
All right, we'll jump into it, right? We got to start talking about civil code sections and all of this D&O correlation with the Davis Sterling Act.
D&O,
yeah,
right?
D&O.
D&O.
What's the acronym?
It's D&O, E&O. So it's Directors and Officers, Errors and Omissions Insurance Policy. Super important. Every association should have that, must have that in order to avoid liability. Right, Viana?
Right. So as always, we always start with the Davis-Sterling Act. And what is the Davis-Sterling Act? So that is the part of the civil code that governs community association law. So it provides for how community associations should be run. And of course, they have a provision on directors and officers insurance, which is Civil Code 5800 for those people who are really eager to look it up.
Right. So Civil Code Section 5800, and of course, we're still trying to get used to these new Civil Code sections. This is limitation of director and officer liability. What can be better, considering that the directors and officers of community associations get paid nothing? They are volunteers. They are homeowners. Community associations are just those organizations that are intended to maintain, enhance, manage community associations, condominium associations, homeowner associations. And so the directors and officers, they're just homeowners, right? You guys, they're just homeowners that come from among the members, and they're elected or they're appointed by their fellow owners. They get no money. So what would be nice is if they had some immunity from liability.
Right, because they're not necessarily experts when they have to make these decisions on behalf of their community. So, what do you need to what do you got to have in your back pocket, right? You get in a car accident, what's the first thing your parents tell you when you're 16? Make sure you have your insurance card in the glove box and never admit fault.
Right. With your cell phone now, you can take pictures. Isn't it great with cell phones nowadays? Since you're in the insurance industry, that you could just hop out of your car and take pictures of everyone who's at fault, right?
You can file a claim right on your phone right at that moment. It's a whole new world.
Wow, no kidding. You can
What's
file a
that
claim right on your
from?
phone.
Is that Little Mermaid, a whole new
That was
world?
The Little Mermaid.
Okay,
I'm just trying to make sure that we have
the
all sorts
background
of
music started going off in my head, and I started thinking of that little guppy that was swimming around with the lobster Sebastian.
Okay,
Yep.
yes, but we digress. So back to directors and officers insurance.
Important stuff.
Immunity so know this, board members out there and homeowners who want to be board members when they grow up. So as a officer or a director, not all officers need to be directors. That's another subject. In a residential community association, so some community associations are commercial and residentials, you're not going to be personally liable in excess of the insurance coverage in case of any kind of a claim by a homeowner. They get hurt, injured, bodily injury, emotional distress, wrongful death, property damage, any of those types of claims against the board member. What they're called is a tort, right, Jonathan? You knew this already, right?
Absolutely. Tort is one of my favorite pastries. Oh,
right.
No, tart. Tort. What? I don't know tort.
It's a civil non-contractual claim. So it's when someone sues you for an injury to themselves or someone else, emotional distress, or for property damage, that's a tort. It's one of the first things that you learn in law school. So you're going to go ahead as a director or an officer association, you're going to be immune from liability above the insurance coverage as long as you do a couple of things, right, Fiona? What do you have to do? You have to be perform the scope, right?
Yeah, the activity you're performing must be within the scope of your duties as a board of directors, as a board member on the board of directors. The act or omission has to be performed in good faith, so you can't purposely be doing something wrong and that you knowingly know is wrong. And the act or omission has to be not willful, wanton, or grossly negligent. So gross negligence is not covered. It's not going to be covered
right.
by
And no
insurance.
one knows how to define gross negligence. What's the difference between negligence and gross negligence? Have you actually ever done that, Fiona? Went online, looked at the court cases, and tried to figure out what the difference is between gross negligence and negligence? I'm asked this by board members all the time because we'll put those different provisions in governing documents that we revise, your C standards and bylaws, and they say, well, gee, Brad, what's the difference between gross negligence and negligence? And it is very amorphous.
Yeah,
it is an amorphous concept. What? I like how you put, though, good faith and how you define good faith, because that's in all the statutes, too. If you want, as a board member, to comply with your fiduciary duty, you have to go ahead and you have to do things in good faith. And that means that you really mean what you do. You can't do things fraudulently.
Yeah, or knowing that what you're doing isn't exactly proper or correct or legal.
Perfect. And then in addition to the working within the scope of your duty, performing good faith, and not doing things willful, wanton, gross negligence, you have to have particular insurance coverage, right? So when we come back, Tina and us, we're going to go ahead and tell you what that insurance coverage is.
Well, I'm excited. So that's the music that says we need to take a brief break. When we return, more from our special guests, Christina Keele, Deanna Barbru, and Brad Epstein. We'll be back shortly. Thanks.
Rick Russo Insurance.
Did you see the story about the Homeowners Association? I wonder what their residents think.
I don't know, but I love my condominium association. The place looks great and is well managed, and our property values are increasing.
Well, that's a good thing.
Community Associations Institute, CAI, has helped us build a great community. They have tools for safeguarding our investment, including education for our board and professional training for our manager. Just visit CAI at responsiblecommunities.com.
Okay, responsiblecommunities.com.
If your community association has a good relationship with their current management company, you can stop listening. However, if you are struggling with your current service provider, we'd love to talk with you to see if Omni Community Management would be a good fit. Transparency, education, communication, and trust are just 4 of the qualities that set Omni apart. This is Rolf Crocker, CEO of Omni. Call us at 916-965-8964. That's 916-965-8964. Online at omni-mgt.com. That's omni-mgt.com. Omni Community Management, your friend in the community association management industry for over 20 years.
Have you ever heard of the saying, a person's home is their castle? Of course you have. But sometimes a construction defect can turn your castle into a catastrophe. If this happens to you, you need proper and professional representation. You need Angius&Terry, LLP. For over 30 years, the attorneys at Angius&Terry have been effectively serving homeowners and community associations, recovering more than $500 million on behalf of their clients. Angius&Terry strives to ensure that your construction defect claims are prosecuted in an aggressive and cost-effective manner. Angius&Terry will also continue to work with homeowners and community associations after the construction defect claims are concluded to make sure that the money received from builders is spent wisely and that your interests are protected during the repair process. Don't let a construction defect turn your castle into a catastrophe. Call Angius&Terry LLP today at 916-567-1400. That's 916-567-1400. Online at angius-terry.com. Angius&Terry LLP.
This is AM 1380, The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Good morning. We are back right from the first quarter.
Yeah.
And guess what? The phone's been ringing. So we have 2 contestants, community managers, that are going to play Battle of the Community Managers today. I know, you're just jumping at the bit over there, chomping at the bit. So we have our first caller, Arlene. Arlene, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
Arlene, thanks for calling in and agreeing to participate on the show today. Can you just tell us a little bit about how long you've been a community manager? Maybe you have a couple bullet points of why you enjoy being a community manager. And just tell us a little bit about your where you're located and your community management experience.
Okay, so I'm in Fresno, California. I've been managing approximately 4 years, and I have
best 4 years of your life.
I'm sorry?
Is that been the best 4 years of your life?
I'm so sorry, I can't hear you.
That's all right. Can you hear us, Arlene?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I was just cracking a little. I thought maybe.
Right. It's hard to hear when you're speaking and then you speak also. Right, Jonathan? Sorry, Arlene. He's just getting a little enthusiastic today, Arlene. So please continue. So Fresno.
Yes, Fresno, California. And I have a portfolio of approximately 17 associations that I'm managing.
Oh, my gosh. That's a lot of associations.
So you work 80-hour weeks?
So you don't have all monthly meetings then, of course, right? You have some quarterly meetings mixed in there with those 17 associations that you manage, right?
Yes. I'm just having a little hard time hearing you, but I think I understood you.
Okay, well, excellent.
Great. All right, so just hang on tight. Listen to the legal discussion and insurance discussion with our special guest, Christina. And then now we're going to jump over. We have another contestant, Brandon. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about your community management experience?
So I've been doing it for about 6 years now. best years of my life.
Wow.
I've met some great people.
Enthusiasm.
Had some great experiences. And, you know, I if you put my feet to the fire, I could come up with a couple complaints, but none worth telling on the radio.
All right. Well, we'll accept that. So we're excited to have you, and you and Arlene are going to duke it out at the end of the show with a little bit of true or false trivia regarding today's... What? Why are you shaking
It's
your head?
not trivia.
I guess it's not trivia. It's a true or false
this
game?
is substantial law. They need to know the law. They have to listen carefully, just like our listeners who play at home. Trivia. This isn't trivial. This is important stuff for community association board members, right?
Sure.
So, Viana, so what's the law, Viana? Right? We talked about, let's backtrack a little bit. Oh, I know what we want to do. We want to hear a little bit about Rick Russo, though, right?
We want to hear about him?
Well, your company.
Yes. Okay. So Rick's been in business for over 30 years, and he actually started his first agency down in Southern California. And subsequently, I've had 2 offices after that. We're located in Roseville. He has been working on community associations since he started in the insurance business. So he's been doing this for a long time. And we are recently in the last year or 2, gosh, time flies. We were designated CIRMS by CAI, which is Community Insurance Risk Management Specialist. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rick Russo Insurance Agency, they are a leader in providing insurance to community associations. I cannot tell you how many times over the last 20 years I would go to community association board meetings, and since I'm an attorney, we talk about legal issues, and which leads to, well, what kind of insurance do you have? We have insurance with Rick Russo Insurance Agency. The majority of associations have insurance with Rick Russo Insurance Agency because they do such a great job for the community association. So, Viana, we're going to start talking about the law, and that community association board members and officers can be immune from liability for torts, right? Personal injuries and claims by homeowners, those types of claims, as long as they are in the scope of their duties, in good faith, and they are not willful, wanton, or grossly negligent. And what kind of insurance do they have to have in addition? The law, the Davis-Sterling Act requires that board members have directors and officers insurance. Go ahead and give us some detail.
So basically, the Davis-Sterling Act requires that associations carry two types of insurance: the a general liability policy, and also the directors and officers insurance. And so, what we're talking today specifically is the directors and officers part of that insurance. And in addition, the associations must have certain types of coverage depending on how many lots are in their community, how many separate interests are in their community. So if you have at least you have to have at least $500,000 in coverage if the common interest development consists of 100 or fewer lots, and at least $1 million in coverage if the common interest development consists of 100 or more lots.
So as good teachers would say, this is going to be on the test. So at least
don't give them a clue.
I'm a nice teacher. At least $1 million if the CID, the common interest development, consists of more than 100 separate interests, which could be condominium units, it could be lots, it could be townhomes, it could be attached, detached, either or and over at least $1 million in directors and officers insurance. If the association has more than 100 lots, it's only $500,000. If they have less than that, here's a curveball to you, Tina. So, are there many policies for directors and officers insurance that are just $500,000?
You know, when this civil code came about, I was surprised that it was $500,000, just because I don't have a policy that's less than $1 million.
Right.
So it was a slam dunk for us, and I don't see that's not common, but.
Right. Yeah. When I first got in the industry, there were some subcontractor policies that would be $500,000, but any kind of contractor's insurance nowadays, you know, when you have construction defect claims, right, they're at least $1 million, and most of them are $2 million.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's offered, and if it is, I can't imagine the cost being effective. So.
Okay, and so Viana continues. So, what are the other details about the directors and officers insurance coverage?
Let's see. So the payment of expenses, the insurance coverage will pay for expenses incurred by the director in trying to defend him or herself in the claim, and that's not going to be counted as income towards the director.
Yeah, this is important because these are volunteer directors, and in order to be covered under these insurance policies, right, Tina, the insurance policies, the directors and officers, they can't be paid money. That means, hence, they wouldn't be a volunteer. So this fact of that, the payment of actual expenses incurred. So you'll have, like, for instance, we'll go to mediations and settlement conferences with directors and officers at, construction defect cases, and the directors and officers, they will get reimbursed for, say, their mileage and what have you. And that doesn't mean that they're not a volunteer.
And I think it's important to note that the Davis-Sterling Act doesn't actually limit liability for negligence. All it does is provides that if you have the correct coverage, you should be protected.
Well, no, I see your point there. Again, point counterpoint. They're immune above that for those torts. It doesn't.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's just ask real quick then, Christina, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, not just someone, but potentially a board member or a community manager, what would be the best way for them to reach you if they wanted to so that you could hit their curveballs out of the park like you just did Brad's?
Oh, yeah. By email or phone, you can call the office, 800-281-7873. My extension's 115. Or you can email me, Tina, at Rick Russo Insurance, all spelled out, .com.
And Tina, what I wanted to know is on the D&O policy, who is the insured? Who's covered?
The insured is a committee member, volunteer, board member, director, officer, and that's for past, present, or future duties. So every policy varies in language, but in the general sense of the definition, that's what it is.
And my question is, how long do these policies last? When do they have to renew? What is generally the length and period of the contract and agreement with your insurance company? Is I know my insurance, I renew it every 6 months or every 12 months. What is a director and officer's policy? How long does that last?
We have an annual anniversary, so typically it's going to renew at the same time that your property and your umbrella and your workers' compensation does. So you want to have that every year.
Okay, another curveball. I received a text from one of our smart board members, and what she asked was, she said, well, if we had a lawsuit pending and we switched insurance companies on the directors and officers, will the new directors and officers insurance policy cover that lawsuit that's pending?
Typically not. You hopefully had filed that claim with your current carrier at the time the lawsuit was occurring, and when you're going through the process of getting a new insurance policy, and typically we don't recommend switching D&O carriers frequently, particularly for cost reasons or especially for cost reasons. But if you do, there's a series of warranty questions that the carrier is going to ask me that I have to ask you, which is, do you know of any claim that could give rise or any issue that could give rise to a claim? And so anything that you are aware of, we're typically going to exclude from any future costs.
Well, thank you, Tina, and thank you, board member, for texting us that question.
Good question.
Are community managers usually covered by these policies? I think that's a really important question for the board, because they direct the community manager to perform a wide variety of duties. So would this kind of policy cover them?
Is covered. It does depend on from carrier to carrier whether you have to endorse it or it's automatically listed, but typically they are included, and it's under the scope of duties that the board directs them in.
Right. And what happens if the board is still under the control of the developer? So if the developer is either in control or just somehow still on the board, what happens with the D&O coverage?
That's okay. And this happens quite a bit, and hopefully more, which means that we're starting to build more and more. We just need to let the D&O carrier know. You got to let me know so that I can find the right carrier for you. Some carriers do not accept a D&O policy if the board consists of a developer. They may not accept the D&O coverage if the board is primarily developer. So we have to find out what your variables are and find the right carrier for you.
Okay, so it basically really depends on the carrier, and it is possible that there's still coverage available.
Absolutely, in their capacity for the board, for the homeowners association, not in their development acts as a developer.
And Tina, so can you give us some money information? So what kind of a range of premiums are we talking about for a directors and officers policy?
Well, the typical policy that I see in a generally sized association, 100 units or less, is going to be about $1,000. It can go as low as $700
Per year.
Per year, yeah, and anywhere up to, I have a policy that's $20,000 because they've had a lot of claims, but.
So that's the biggest factor, is how many claims that they've had?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's going to be the biggest issue next to your unit count and some of the amenities that you have in your community.
Excellent. Well, we've got a lot more to talk about, and then we're going to have two community managers with a lot of experience duke it out and battle.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah,
battle
right?
the managers. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the relationship with construction defect investigation and claims next.
Oh, all right. That sounds exciting. When we get back from the break, you heard it. That's what we're going to discuss.
Hi, I'm Morgan Fussell. My company, Broadband Agreements, negotiates cable television and broadband right of entry, access, and compensation agreements for your communities. At Broadband Agreements, we offer a free review of all agreements with a signed letter of authorization. Broadband Agreements will improve your community's income and/or savings, or you don't pay us a dime. Visit us at broadbandagreements.com. That's broadbandagreements.com. Or call me, Morgan Fussell, directly at 916-939-5026. That's 916-939-5026. Broadband Agreements online at broadbandagreements.com or 916-939-5026.
Hi, this is Rick Russo, owner of Russo Insurance Agency and Financial Services. We proudly serve Granite Bay, Roseville, Rockland, Sacramento, Lake Tahoe, and the surrounding areas. At Russo Insurance Agency, we like to say, get to know us before you need us. Our insurance agency is built on relationships and trust. If you want to be certain that your most valuable assets are insured correctly, allow us to give you more than just a 15-minute quote. For all your commercial, home, auto, and life insurance needs, call us today at 916-791-1901. That's 916-791-1901. or online at rickrussoinsurance.com. That's rickrussoinsurance.com. Thank you.
News, opinion, insight. AM 1380, The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Hello, everyone. We are back, and we're in the studio with Tina Keele. Tina, we heard all about Rick Russo Insurance, and we heard all about DNO policies from you, but we still have a lot more questions.
Curveballs, I think, is what.
Curveballs, yeah, exactly.
I was playing baseball. I play soccer. Come on.
No kidding. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the relationship between directors and officers, policies, and this immunity that board members have when it comes to construction defect claims. So, of course, people, pets, and parking are important when it comes to board member duties. However, what's more important in the minds of many, if not all, industry experts is to make sure that the buildings are healthy and maintained so that the values of the homes are maintained and enhanced. That's the duties of board members. And so what specifically the statute 5800, Civil Code Section 5800, says with respect to this immunity is that the officers and the director's duties include both of the following decisions. Number one, whether to conduct an investigation of the development for latent deficiencies. So we have a construction defect claim specialist with us today. And so, Jonathan, what is a latent deficiency? Isn't that when you have a construction defect, right?
Well, I didn't know that we were going to be jumping right into my second hat. So, well, I mean, there's two different types of defects, right?
There are.
Yeah, so there's
latent
and
patent.
Right.
So latent is the hidden, and that is the majority of construction defects where in order to determine whether there is a construction defect existing, you have to peel away the layers. You have to pull some tiles.
That's your
on
favorite
the roof.
part, right?
It is. Just love it. It's the forensic construction
It's like playing
consultants.
Operation, and then it buzzes when you hit something.
I never thought of it that way, and I probably never will again. Okay, so this scope of duties that board members have, this statute specifically says, is that it includes the duty of board members to determine whether there are construction defects before the expiration of the statute of limitations. Who here would like to define statute of limitations?
I'll do it. I'm so excited about statutes of limitations. Actually, it's a really important thing when you're filing a lawsuit. So the statute of limitation is the amount of time you have to file the claim, and the claims are barred sometimes at 2 years, sometimes at 4, sometimes at 10. So
right.
You just have to make sure that you're filing your claim before that statute of limitation runs out. Yeah.
Right. It's a deadline for a plaintiff to file a claim. So here you are, your development has construction defects, and let's say you have leaky balconies. You need to file that claim within 10 years of when it was built. So you have construction defect statutes of limitations. Like Fiona said, some are shorter than 10 years, 4 years, 2 years. Also, the other aspect that board members have within their duties is whether to actually make a claim for defects in construction defects. So those two are specifically stated. No other duties are specifically stated in statute. That shows how important that they are. Okay, so with that, then we're going to, again, talk about the Directors and Officers Insurance Policy itself. So again, who does it cover again, Tina?
It covers the directors and officers on the board.
And this is also committee members? Does it cover committee members?
It covers committee members, volunteers, past, present, and future. So you have to be board appointed. We don't want any rogue members saying, hey, I want to jump in on this coverage because I'm having an issue.
Well, when would a policy expire on, maybe if there was a board member 3 years ago and something came to fruition and they wanted to go ahead and somebody decided to take action against that board? And when does the I guess it's equivalent to statute of limitations expire on liability for a board member on an insurance policy? Does it ever expire?
If they were a prior board member and there's an issue that's coming up today that dealt with what their duties were then we would file that claim and the investigator would address that accordingly. There's no expiration date like, oh, I'm in the clear. It was a year ago. If they're brought into that issue, we're going to address that.
So does that mean prior acts are covered? How does that work?
It depends. It depends. So there's a few different layers here, and this is one of the coverage items that you want to ask your insurance agent about, particularly if you are changing carriers from carrier A to carrier B, for example. You want to see how far back your insurance goes. So some carriers limit their insurance coverage to the day that coverage went into effect. Some carriers say we have full prior acts. And some carriers have a contingent date where it will go back to the date that the association is formed. So it's a really big item because if you're going through a changing carrier and you don't know about a claim and you switch carriers, you want to know that you're going to be covered for that issue that comes up.
And I think a good point for boards to take note of is that they should review their insurance policies for their definitions, for any particular items like the prior coverage you mentioned, to make sure that they understand what acts are covered, how much coverage they have, what the definitions are. Because
Absolutely.
I think you mentioned the definition of claim is also important.
Absolutely. Every carrier, like I said, every carrier is different. And a lot of these questions I'll answer with it depends, because it really does depend carrier by carrier. But these are big items that you want to discuss with your agent.
And then, again, I know we covered this briefly, but are community association managers covered under these directors and officers insurance policies?
They typically are, for the scope of their duty for the board. Mm-hmm.
What about if the damages are not monetary in a certain type of action? What happens? Is that covered?
We address non-monetary issues, so that's specific to our directors and officers coverage for nonprofit organizations.
Oh, no, that's special then. So what you're talking about, that is when a claim is made to ask the board to take or not take some action, like do the election over, or stop enforcing in this instance. And so you're saying that kind of coverage is covered under your insurance policy?
Well, yeah, I'll give an example of a non-monetary claim. So I say I'm an owner. I purchase in a community on lakefront, and there's huge trees that they're aged trees. They're beautiful trees that add to the aesthetic features of the association. And one day, for whatever reason, the board decides we're gonna cut those trees down. And I feel as an owner that just diminished the value of my home, maybe now or maybe in the future when I may go to sell it. So that's a kind of a value I can't place. It's a non-monetary thing. It didn't hurt me in my finances, but I have a feeling that it could have. And so there's no way to put a limit or a dollar figure on that, but that's an example of non-monetary.
Right, and we're talking about injunctive relief. So if someone were to sue in court, it would be not just money damages, but injunctive relief. This is a really great legal term, and we're going to cover that when we come back and then hit Battle of the Managers.
All right, we're going to break. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Morgan Fussell. My company, Broadband Agreements, negotiates cable television and broadband right of entry, access, and compensation agreements for your communities. At Broadband Agreements, we offer a free review of all agreements with a signed letter of authorization. Broadband Agreements will improve your community's income and/or savings, or you don't pay us a dime. Visit us at broadbandagreements.com. That's broadbandagreements.com. Or call me, Morgan Fussell, directly at 916-939-5026. That's 916-939-5026. Broadband Agreements online at broadbandagreements.com or 916-939-5026.
The challenges presented by today's economy and rebounding housing market is forcing many homeowners association boards of directors to operate their HOAs more like a business. It's a balancing act of trying to stay solvent and still provide homeowners with quality amenities and services. One of the main challenges HOA boards are facing is attempting to recover unpaid HOA fees owed by delinquent homeowners. Collection efforts are often very time-consuming. If you want to get the HOA fees collection monkey off of your back, call ATC Assessment Collection Group. ATC is an attorney-supervised collection company providing collection and foreclosure services to HOAs in both California and Nevada's most recognizable communities. Get back to what you actually volunteered to do as an HOA board member. Effectively oversee your community. Call ATC today at 916-641-1410. That's 916-641-1410. Online at atcacg.com. That's atcacg.com. ATC Assessment Collection Group.
AM 1380. The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Hey, you know what? I've got to bring this up. Since we're getting ready to jump into this battle of the community managers, one of our community managers on the line, he texted me and he brought up a good point. Can we put Brandon Canner real quick? Or excuse me, Brandon. Brandon, what was that little note that you had sent me, a message briefly in the break that was really a good point?
I just wanted to note that when you have volunteers, committee members, or whomever's working on behalf of the association, you want to have their names noted in the minutes, and that way it kind of protects them should an issue arise where you have to activate that D&O policy.
How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. We can't have any rogue board members, but we certainly don't want to leave anybody out in the dust. So you want to make sure that they're board appointed and that they're noted, especially if you have large committees and many volunteers, if you're a very active community.
So what types of acts are actually covered under D&O policy?
Well, that depends. If a wrongful act is brought in front of the association, it can be anything alleged or actual. It can be an act, error, omission. It can be a misleading statement, a misstatement. Essentially anything that's brought to the board as an issue. There's a duty to defend, and the adjuster would address if there is coverage or not.
Okay, and also I said when we would come back, we're going to talk about injunctive relief because that will be on the test. And injunctive relief, that is, again, the difference between monetary damages, where if you make a claim in a lawsuit, then you're asking the court to award you money. Whereas injunctive relief is when you're asking the court to go ahead and make an order, a judgment, and requiring the board member to do something or to refrain from doing something. So it's more of the acts rather than the money.
Well, It's that time to find out what the hammer clause is all about. I've been dying to ask Tina this. So what is the hammer clause?
It's hammer time. The hammer clause is an extremely important coverage piece that's within a directors and officers policy, and I think that it needs more attention. I've been doing a lot of research on it in the last few months, and actually just talked to one of our directors and officers carriers about their hammer clause recently. And essentially, you're going to hear of a few different types of hammer clauses: a soft hammer, a hard hammer. You can hear a softened 80-20. And essentially what this means is, at the end of the day, what the carrier is going to pay and what you would have out of pocket if you decide not to settle on a claim. So if the association has a claim and the carrier comes to a point where they want to settle that claim, they're going to put a value out on that settlement. And if the board says, no, we don't want to settle, we want to keep fighting this, at that point, we're going to use the example of a softened 80-20 hammer clause. At that point, if the association doesn't want to settle, the carrier will pay the settlement that they've agreed upon. They'll pay the defense costs that they've had up to that point, and then they're going to grant payment on 80% of any future costs associated with continuing that claim. And so the other part of that is the 20%, and that's what the association is going to be responsible for.
Good information. I don't know. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking there's a lot of information that's been discussed today. It's time for Battle of the Community Managers, right?
I think so. So
it is.
What are our rules?
I am going to go over the rules because they only give us so much time here, and then our production engineer in the back, he starts waving his hands, telling, hurry up, hurry up. So we are going to do 11 true or false questions, but it's going to be broken down into 3 rounds. We're going to have Brandon versus Arlene. Ladies first. Brad, you're going to ask Arlene 3 true or false questions. The first round, she can ask you to repeat the question real quick, but she just needs to answer true or false. Then our special guest, Tina, is going to ask Brandon 3 questions, true or false. Then we'll go to a second round and a lightning round, and we're going to award a winner. What do you think?
Well, what are they going to win, Jonathan?
Well, first place is going to win a $100 gift card of their choice, and second place is going to win a $50 gift card of their choice.
Fantastic. So 2 winners. So let's make sure that Arlene is still on the line. Arlene, are you still on the line?
I'm here, Brad.
Fantastic. I'll tell you from our ears, you are loud and clear. Hopefully, from your ears, I will be loud and clear. If not, say, Brad, please repeat it. All you have to do is true or false. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Question number 1. Past directors are usually covered by a directors and officers insurance policy. True or false?
True.
Exactly. Nailed it. Number 2. A director is not protected from liability if he acts outside the scope of his duties as a director.
True.
Excellent. Nice job. Number 3. Board members have a duty to conduct an investigation of the development for latent deficiencies prior to the expiration of the statute of limitations.
True.
3 for 3, I believe. Is that true, Viana?
That's correct. Good job, Arlene.
Nice job, Arlene.
Thank you.
All right, Brandon, are you ready for your questions?
And his questions are going to be really tough.
I'm ready. I'm a little nervous now.
Well, what can I say? You've got a tough competitor, so good luck, Brandon. I wish you luck.
Okay, Brandon.
Thanks so much.
Your first question is, a community manager is covered by D&O insurance for acts performed under the direction of the board.
True.
All right. Injunctive relief granted by a court means a court requiring a defendant to take or to refrain from taking action.
True.
And the last one, a statute of limitations is a deadline for a plaintiff to file a lawsuit.
That's also true.
There you go.
Oh, it's tied up. Let's go into round 2 and see if there's going to be a tiebreaker.
Tied up. Round 2. Arlene, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 1. Directors and officers insurance must be for at least $1 million if the community consists of more than 100 lots.
True.
Nice. Number 2. Committee members are not covered by directors and officers insurance.
True.
That is false. 1 off. Number 3. Boards are not protected from liability above the insurance policy limits if they are grossly negligent. Let me say that again. Board members are not protected from liability above the insurance limits if they are grossly negligent.
That is true.
That is correct.
We're at 5 out of 6 for Arlene. That's pretty good.
All right, you ready, Brandon?
Sure.
Sounds confident.
All right. The time for filing a claim varies depending on the insurance policy and the carrier's definitions.
Well, that's true, but you want to file it as soon as possible.
I really like your answer. Yes, you're right.
He's just showing off.
D&O insurance is not liability insurance, but rather property insurance.
That's false.
There you go. D&O insurance provisions in the Davis-Sterling Act do not expand directors' fiduciary duties.
Wait, can you say that again? Sorry.
D&O insurance provisions in the Davis-Sterling Act do not expand directors' fiduciary duties.
I'm going to say true.
You got it.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, Brandon. You're at 6 out of 6 going in the lightning round. I like it.
Okay, Jonathan, what are the rules for the lightning round?
We always have a tough time with this. We've brainstormed. We started with 30 seconds. Now I think it's about 45 seconds. So it's going to be 45 seconds, 5 questions. Can't repeat the question.
My friend has a...
Hey, Brandon. So listen. So you can't repeat the question, and it's true or false. And we got 3 minutes left to plow through the lightning round.
All right.
Are you ready?
Ready. So, Arlene, you're first, and it's going to be 5 questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Number 1. Board members' fiduciary duty includes investigating construction defects.
True.
Correct. In order for directors to be immune from liability above insurance policy limits, the association must have general liability and directors and officers insurance.
False.
That is incorrect. You have to have both of those.
Oh.
Number 3, employees of the association are not covered under the directors and officers insurance policies.
False.
Correct. Directors and officers insurance covers errors and omissions performed in good faith.
True.
Correct. The board should carefully review insurance policies for definitions and exclusionary language.
True.
Correct. Nice job.
Wow, we're at 9 out of 11 for Arlene. Good job, Arlene.
All right, Brandon, you ready for this?
Yep, ready.
All right. The first question. Property damage is usually not covered by D&O insurance.
True.
Right. Second question. Insurance carriers always have the same definition of what constitutes a claim.
False.
Correct.
D&O insurance covers errors and omissions performed within the scope of a director's duties.
True.
Awesome. Sometimes D&O insurance coverage is denied when a developer is still in control of the board of directors.
True.
Perfect. And the last question, D&O insurance is usually for just one director, not the entire board.
False.
That was an easy one.
Wow, that is a perfect 11 out of 11 for Brandon.
Hey, guys, so thanks for playing. I'll get a hold of you next week, and we'll get you some gift cards. So, Arlene, thank you for letting us borrow some of your time on a
Great
Saturday
job, Arlene.
morning.
Great job. Great
Thanks,
job.
Arlene.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
Brandon,
thank
you played with a little bit of swag and confidence and decided to take home the victory today.
Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Brandon.
Thank you, listeners. Okay, so we're going to go to the tiebreaker and talk about that one.
Yeah, so the tiebreaker, although none of the contestants are still on the line, is a really complicated, long question. So, Tina, you tell us if this is true. Pursuant to the Hammer Clause, if the carrier wants to settle and the insurance refuses, then the carrier limits its liability to the amount that the claim could have been settled for, plus defense costs incurred to the date of the proposed settlement.
It depends on the Hammer Clause, pursuant to the Hammer Clause. So, yeah, that
So it's maybe true.
Cool. Hey, what do you think? Or what are you doing on this balmy Saturday, Counselor?
Oh, I'm going to go jump in the ocean.
All right, sounds good, Viana.
I'm not sure if that's the best approach with this rainy weather, but hey, why not?
Christina?
Where are we going? Let's go.
Nobody's going anywhere. All right. Well, thanks for listening again, and we appreciate all of the support. Board members and community managers, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully you get to do something exciting, right? Don't you agree?
Yeah, thanks for listening. We hope you listen next week. It's going to be another exciting radio show. Thank you, listeners.